Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to London MADA's first chess analysis video. It's a shame that it's had to come down to this to start it, but yesterday I saw some of the worst chess ever. So bad, it left me with a headache for a few hours. So I've decided to make this video to analyse some of those games so you can share the pain with me, and hopefully this can educate some students to not make such blundering moves again. So the title of this video, the first ever video, is called To Capture the King. Let's just jump straight into it, shall we? With no further ado, let's look at why was Mr. Walcott in so much pain? Okay, so if you're watching this video by now, you should know the rules of chess, which is to capture the king by any means necessary. But I think where some of these students have gone wrong is they're trying to catch the king, not capture the king. And so the games you're going to see are all going to end in stalemates. So let's jump into the first game. So this first game, I'm not going to name any names, but it's a 600 rated player versus a 700. Okay? So it starts pretty good. I don't see anything wrong with these developing moves into the middle. Okay, so far, you could probably think this is an international master. Okay? And then the blunder begins immediately. On move 4, White has already lost their queen. Okay, so from this point, what Black should be doing, having been in the lead, is continue development. Get your pieces out and castle. This is the principle of chess. Develop, control the center, and castle. And then you move into the middle game and proceed. Of course, there is a nice fork here, which Black spots and executes. So now Black is massively in the lead. 15 points to be exact. They've captured White's queen and rook, and of course the pawn. Okay, 2 pawns in fact. So now Black can actually afford to leave that knight there for the rest of the game. Even if it gets taken, Black is massively up on pieces, even without the queen. But the principles are always going to be the same. Control the center of the board. Develop your pieces into the center of the board. Castle the king, and then continue the attack so you can capture the other opponent's king. Okay, so Black here gives a check, which is a good move because it was a developing move as well. And now definitely the next move is either something like Queen F6, maybe even Queen E7, or Knight F6. Nothing else is really necessary right now. Queen to get in with the attack, maybe a quick checkmate, or develop and castle and stick to the principles of chess. Striking in the center is okay. The problem is this pawn is now being attacked twice, and Black only has one form of defense. So this move wasn't necessarily made with any thought process. And then White, I'm not quite sure, has moved the knight to the edge of the board and walked into an immediate attack from the bishop. Maybe White was thinking to move the king, develop the knight, and then set up some long-term attack on this knight. I'm not sure. Either way, Black doesn't take the bishop, instead takes the free pawn, and discovery check. This is fantastic. I don't know if that was intentional. White blocks with the bishop, which is a protecting move. However, this protection is no longer defended, so Black can just take the bishop, and it's going to be checkmate in 3 moves. It would be something like this. Bishop take, king can either go c1, or the only other space is it can't go here because of the bishop, it can go here. Both of those are going to lead to a deadly checkmate. If it goes to c1, then we follow up with d2 check. The king has to now march itself back into the corner, and hopefully you can see the punishing final blow. If not, then pause the video and take a second to see if you can find it. There's actually 2. Both d1 and e1 give checkmate. Okay, with the king having no more spaces, and obviously can't take the knight because the queen is also defended. Anyway, at this point, instead of taking the bishop and then unleashing this series of attacks that I just showed you, or maybe taking with the knight and then moving the knight to give a discovery check again, black instead so tries to leap out of the corner with the knight. Maybe the knight wants to get back into the game. Okay, king comes over, knight comes, gives check. Okay, not the end of the world. Now from here, once again, the idea should be either to capture the king or get back to developing and castle. So the right next move here would be something like maybe knight to c2, which is a little bit of a tricky trap because it's leading into a checkmate. It's maybe a bit much to see for a 600 player, but the process goes like this. You're encouraging this, and then there's checkmating too. See if you can see it. Pause the video. Okay, so it would start with queen d1. See, this has got nowhere for the king to go. These close attacks from the queen, very dangerous. The king cannot run. It cannot capture. So the only possible move is for the knight to protect. And then let's see if you can spot checkmate in one. It would be queen takes with the protection of the bishop. However, when the knight came out of the corner and the king ran, in this game, we saw knight take, king go in the corner, and pawn push. Okay, this is not a bad move, but definitely one of the weakest, because that space can obviously be attacked. Not only that, if it goes one more, then it can be taken, and it's just too calculative, trying to get this pawn somehow to get a queen when you already have a queen, and a bishop, and a knight, and two rooks. Anyway, the pawn pushed, knight developed, pawn took, knight took, and black gets a second queen, which should have been captured immediately, as you can see, but white is definitely not playing their best game today. They let the queen stay there and move the king out of the way, perhaps to unleash some type of attack on it. But what players forget is that when you attack a piece, you're also vulnerable to be counterattacked. So right now the queen could actually capture the rook. Unfortunately, they didn't see that. They took the knight, which is one of the reasons why I'm making this video, because what frustrated me and what frustrates me the most is the thought process. Like, from this position, black has a plan. Clearly, push the pawn, take the pawn, go get a queen. And they executed their plan, got the queen, and survived the first attack. Now they've got the queen. What happened to the thinking process? They could take the rook, take the pawn, give check. Like, they've just accomplished the goal. But instead of doing any of those moves, any of them would have been great. But to take that knight just makes me wonder, what was the point of getting the queen? Because now your queen can be taken by the rook, which doesn't happen. So here we have another turn. What should black do from this perspective? They should continue with the piece they just gained, which somehow survived a lot longer than it should have done. Take the pawn. Or the best move is definitely to take the rook, the most valuable piece on the board except for the king. Any of those two moves would have been great. Even give check, just to keep the game pressure going. But to actually come back and pin the knight is a bit unnecessary. Especially with a queen hanging. However, there is an option to double up the attack on this knight with the bishop and the queen, which is always valuable to connect two pieces together. King moves out of the way, moves away from the pin. I still feel taking the queen was the better option. And the queen finally gets out with the attack from the rook. Although, again, I'm not sure what the thinking process is. However, if we fast forward just another two moves, then we see the thinking process. So, makes me wonder, did this player not realize they could actually go diagonal with their queen? They thought they had to come up and then over. And then the thinking process is, in this position with black to play, the pawns are the weakest pieces on the board. the idea is not to go and get those. Remember, it's to capture the king. So, they sidestepped to the pawn and won a pawn. They could have won a knight. They could have developed the queen and won a knight. They could have given check. There's so many. They could have developed and castled. Anyway, they won a pawn and the game continues. Knight pushes up. Now we take the knight. Rook pushes up and then we take the knight. And now the rook leaves one deadly trap and then goes into another one. So the bishop takes the rook. Black has got a massive advantage. The score says plus 39. That's like having more than 3 queens. 4 queens, in fact. Anyway, white has 4 pawns and a king. Black has 6 pawns, king, queen, rook. 2 rooks, 2 knights, 2 rooks, 2 knights, 2 bishops. A massive advantage. From this point, the idea should be to capture the king. You should start looking at places that the king cannot go. Like the king cannot go there because of the queen. The king cannot also go here because of the bishop. So a nice move would probably be something like bishop e5. Stopping yet more spaces for the king, leaving only 1 left. When the king obviously can't land on its own spaces, when the king's got no spaces to go, that means it can't run. All you need to do is attack it with a piece that cannot be captured, and then all protected, and then you have checkmate. Like a knight here would be able to give checkmate. Of course, as long as the other spaces were covered. So, best move here, it's actually checkmate in 3. White has to make a move, of course, so let's see what white does. Okay, now it's checkmate in 2. If you cannot see a mate in net, please pause the video and have a closer look. We do not want to take pawns. We do not, at this stage, even want to give check. What we want to do is trap the king. That we can capture it without it running away. So this queen at the moment is blocking this, which means the king should never again be able to come back over here. We need to close the garden on this king. See, at the moment it's inside this sector. And we do not want it getting out. We want to reduce that space. So the idea should be to close this off. The best move in this position is queen here. No, actually, it's queen. Any of those moves are good. This gives check, which is a little bit more forcing. And if you calculate how many spaces can the king go, it cannot go here, here, or here. Because the queen covers this. The bishop covers that. This queen covers this. So the king has only got 2. Oh, actually, it can't go here because of this queen. It's only got 1 space remaining. And so what you should be thinking is, from this position, when I give check and the king's only got 1 space, how do I provide the winning blow? The answer is going to be with a different piece. This is one of the key points of this video. That when you want to capture the king, you're going to need a group of pieces. 1 piece by itself cannot capture the king. You need a group of pieces. So at the moment, this queen is doing a great job of stopping the king from retreating. This bishop is cutting the king off from coming up the board anymore. So we've got 2 spaces here, and we've got these spaces here. When we play the queen here, we're going to remove those 2 spaces and this one, so it's only got 1 more. So when the king does go here, it has a few spaces it can still go to. How do we then block them all off? So let's play this out. The king goes here. Where is checkmate? It sometimes helps to black out or red out the spaces that the king can no longer visit, which will be all of these because of the queen, this one because of the bishop. So there is 1 space remaining. How do we check the king and stop the king from going to this space, all in 1 move, without moving our already current active pieces that are doing a great job of keeping the king within a small playground? So the answer is actually 2 possible ways. The most obvious way would be to use this dark squared bishop and snipe across this way. So the move would be bishop d2. Okay, the other way is to use this queen, which is already covering this angle, but move it closer to here and do the exact same thing that the bishop would do. So we have bishop d2 or queen d2. Both of those would have finished this game on move 21 with checkmate. King completely cooked in the middle of the board. Instead, let's have a look at what actually happened. So let's go back to this c3. Pawn takes. We get the queen. We win the knight. We pin the knight. We move side steps to take a pawn. Then we capture the knight. Then we capture the rook. Okay? The right move here is to bring up the queen, bring out the queen, corner the king. Instead, what I saw was the most valuable piece on the board go marching for a pawn. That hurt. That hurt me so much. Why would you take your most valuable piece, which is at home, in the castle, on the throne, the king, to go outside to the bottom of the road to pick up a piece of rubbish, put it in the bin, and come all the way back? That's not your job. You could have captured that pawn with the bishop if you really wanted it. So this tunnel vision of saying, I see pawn, I want pawn. Okay, now you have the pawn. Then just get back to the game. It's still checkmate in 3. Where? Okay. It's the same principle. We bring out the queen. We're cutting off these spaces. Yes, the king can run behind this pawn, but very quickly you're going to be able to checkmate it with something like this. Queen up, king will go here, and then we've got queen h3. Slide this queen over here with the protection of the bishop. Queen can't go here. Queen can't go here. Or king can't go to any of these spaces anymore. See? I've minimized the movement. King has got one space. Do not move this queen. It's already doing its job of trapping this king in the corner. Do not do something like this, because you want to finish what you're doing. This is the kind of move that leads to stalemate. Draws, because the king's got no extra spaces to move to. Of course, in this position, there's still pawns, so there's always a pawn push. So that's another motto, to always leave the other person with enough pieces to make a move. Anyway, what did we see in the actual game? After king took the pawn, still mate in 3, we taught pawn push, pawn take, pawn push, pawn take. So this person's definitely built up on capturing all of white's pieces. And they do. There we go. So mission accomplished. Black, you've captured all of white's pieces. Now what you should do is exactly what I said. Capture the king. And there's a few ways to do it. Pause the video. See if you can find one checkmate. Remember, the idea is to mark where can the king not go. Well, it can't go there. This is how you find checkmate. You work out where the king cannot go, or where it can go, or what's left, and block off the path. That's why it's called capture the king, not catch the king. If you try to catch the king, you're going to run around the whole board trying to catch it. Don't try to catch the king. Instead, capture the king. I don't think I've seen a more incredible stalemate in my life, and I don't think I will. I mean, it doesn't even look like stalemate. You're thinking, yeah, the king can move, but look, the king's got no moves. I mean, even this space is double protected because of the bishop protecting it. So even when this pawn pushes, the king's got no moves. It can't land on top of its own pawn. And even if it could, well, it can't land on this pawn because the king is protecting that. So the king has no moves. You don't want to push a pawn and get another queen. You've already got one in base, hasn't even moved the whole game. And the only thing I'm thinking this was is to go and get another queen. So you would have stalemated 4 times in a row. When there's a checkmate with bishop g4. Right here. We already know the king can't go anywhere. So we just give it check. When the king cannot move, all you got to do is give check. So that's one. We also have this queen that's been sitting here, come into the game and finally deliver a checkmate, covering that same diagonal. Remember, this was the square. Well, actually, at the moment, that square's even covered. It's only with the pawn push that square became vulnerable, even though the bishop's there. So queen here is given check. Bishop here also gives check. What else do we have? Queen d3. The king can't go back anymore because black already covers those spaces. And this space because of the pawn, which is protected by the king. And this space because of the bishop and pawn, and this space because of the king. So any piece that could give check, if we could put our knight here, that would also be checkmate. But unfortunately, the knight wasn't developed quick enough. But to see this, and the two players just stared at each other like, what happened? Well, what happened was black got too greedy for pieces and forgot how to develop their own queen. And white just completely blundered everything. Let's move on to the next one. It gets worse. Or funnier, whichever way you want to calculate it. So this is a game between two 800 rated players. One is 878, the other is 843. Now these are good players. You can see from the first few moves that they know how to play chess. They move in central pawns. So the principles are definitely there. But sometimes I wonder if these players would actually be able to beat someone who doesn't even know how to play chess. I think a complete novice who's never played a game of chess, probably doesn't even know the rules, may have played a better game. Let me tell you why. Because when your philosophy or your principles work against you, then you kind of cook yourself. But when you don't have any principles, then you may get a bit lucky. But I didn't see any luck in this game. Follow me here. So a very good open. Very good open from both. King's pawn, king's knight, take a free pawn, counter-attack. You may argue this is okay. Although once they trade, if you look carefully, it's still an open position, but this is a double pawn that may become a target in the future. So black attacks it, and white takes. More pawns. So black takes. And so we have an interesting position. White has a slight advantage because it gained an extra pawn. So white has only lost one, but black has lost two. Both pieces are only one move away from development and then castling, and they both have some type of control over the center. So here, the next best move for white would be to play something like knight c3, pawn d3, or maybe something a bit more aggressive like bishop a3, stopping black from castling in the future, or just get one of your pieces into the game. Anything along those lines would have been fair enough. Okay, you got to be looking out for these open lines from black's perspective as well. But going into the middle, I guess not a bad idea. That pawn is also being protected by the queen. But if black takes, what would you do? Would you take back with the queen? I don't think so. So maybe not the best move. It does leave this square open for the bishop to get out and give an immediate check. So we'll see. But knight now attacks this pawn. Black now has 3 attackers on this pawn. Did they spot that? Okay. So now we have a queen stare down. Very common in beginner chess for these queens to face each other. And do they trade? No. We push a pawn. That's protected. Black takes and white should take back, but no. Okay. Then what was the thought process behind this pawn? Just to make space for the queen? I don't know. Anyway, pawn got taken. And so now the advantage, you might think, is now even, but because of the openness of these pieces, and the king still be in the middle, there are multiple checks. There's a hanging piece and multiple checks that can be followed up with so much brute force. For example, one of the best moves from this position would actually be to trade queens, stop black from being able to castle for the rest of the game, and then follow up with either taking this knight or getting this knight out into the game to set up some type of, double attack, or just castle and get back to development. But instead, we see the queen being attacked, so we got rid of the knight. So far, so good. Although we've now disturbed our castle structure, which is not ideal for white. The queen being attacked again, once again without any support. So too many players attacking, but not thinking about the fact of being counter-attacked. So white could just take the bishop completely for free. Instead, white ignores the attack, does not counter-attack, but sends another shot. It says, hey, I'm going to attack you from the side. Very common trait from beginner players. When you already can capture a piece, rather than capturing it, let me just attack it a bit more. I don't know why. Just take a piece. So black finally spots the trick, captures white's queen, and the king just runs away, thinking that the bishop's too close to me. I don't like smelly bishops. I'm going to run away. There was no need to run away. This bishop is a light squared bishop. It only sees light squares. It doesn't see dark squares. It couldn't see the king if it had a pair of glasses. So this king didn't have to move. In fact, all white had to do was just take the bishop and win back a piece for having lost their queen. Or we get back to the principle of the game, and that is to capture the king. Any of those moves would have been great. Anyway, we run away from smelly bishops, fine. And the queen comes in to somehow provide more pressure, although it walks straight into an immediate blunder. So white can now capture the black queen's back and get back to being in the lead. However, by putting the bishop over there, I really don't understand. Was it threatening an invisible piece that we don't see? Was it trying to tuck itself in a corner and hide? Was it trying to castle? Was it trying to make space for the king to castle? Did white forget that it already moved the king? I don't know what this move is doing. So once again, the challenge, the concept of this video is, why? Why did you put your bishop there? What were you trying to achieve? And if you wasn't trying to achieve anything, then why move it? Queen goes back. Queen says, listen, I gave you a chance to take me. You didn't want to take me, so I'm going home. And then the knight takes the bishop. So the thought processes are there, but just not when they need to be, not at the right time. Okay, rook. Once again, we see this rook safe, go straight into a trap. So the bishop just takes the rook. Thank you. Free material. Maybe this bishop was psychic. Maybe bishop went here and saying, I'm going to wait for the rook to come and make a blunder. We have a psychic bishop and we had a smelly bishop. Interesting bishops. Okay, queen takes the bishop. You have some justification. Pawn push. I don't know why. That pawn is hanging. Leave the pawns alone. Develop your pieces. Get your rooks into the game. You should stop and think, what are my next most valuable pieces? I've lost my queen. I've lost the right to castle. What do I have left? You saw pawn? I don't see pawns. I see two rooks. Maybe get this rook here and do a manual castle, where you manually force a castle. But to push another pawn, now that the pawn's being attacked, we're having a pawn trade-off. Players have forgot that they've got rooks and bishops and knights, and we're just having pawn take pawns. Okay, very common. Then we have another pawn push. What is white thinking? The game started so well. What is white thinking? And what is this? Why do we stick knights in the corner? Just to be taken for free? And why do we not take them? Okay, so take a free pawn. No, we attack it, but we could already take it. I just don't understand. You put the knight in the corner. Your pawn gets attacked. Take the pawn. No, we attack the pawn. Okay, you attack the pawn. But now the pawn's not there. The pawn's now coming closer to your king. So what do? You should move your queen and give check. You should move the rook and get onto an open file. You should continue developing pawns. You should not. That's a good move. Okay, so definitely a big blunder here. You can take with the knight, as black did, but it's probably better to take with the queen. No, it's not better to take with the queen because, oh yes it is, I'm getting tunnel visioned. The bishop is on a dark square, not a light square, so it can't just jump over here. So you can take with the queen, this piece is hanging, no defenders, and it comes with tempo because it gives check. Okay? Taking with the knight's okay, at least you want a piece, and now you need to move that piece. Okay, very good. Okay, so now we've got a marching king. The king's marching for pieces. Kings can be very powerful when they go on a march. So this knight needs to move, but sometimes instead of moving the knight, You can defend the knight with a move like here, Queen c5. Protects the knight, the king can no longer take it, and it sets up a nice discovery. So as soon as the knight moves, it will be discovering a check. Or we can actually just counterattack with a move like Queen c3. Straight here, give an attack and also protecting the knight. And White's king has some real dangerous steps. It can easily walk into another checkmate attack very soon. And this is also a triple move. Not only does it give check, it also protects the knight and attacks the rook. Black has no chance of covering all three areas. He cannot take the knight and protect the rook, whilst also being in check. So you're going to win a piece on the next move and possibly another one. So the knight instead gives a deadly fork. When I saw this, I thought, wow, one of the best moves of all the games you'll see today. A fork, a great tactic. One of the most common, one of the most powerful. Check the king, king moves, take the rook. Okay, so they are worthy of their 800 rating titles. Now, because the knight covers this square, the queen can actually come down. Or the other psychology is to move the king out of the way, get the rook over. Get more pieces into the game. Okay, bishop moves. Almost a fantastic move, because then if that had been check, that would have been a discovery attack, but it's not quite. Black has a chance to move the piece, but if you look at both the spaces, both those spaces are going to lose. If the knight goes here, the pawn takes. If the knight goes here, the king takes. So the best thing to do in this position is to counter-attack. When you have no moves, you should counter-attack and give the other player some choices. So what do we see? We can do... there's so many moves. There's queen here. That's also being protected. We spoke about this before. But is there a way to attack two pieces? Give check and an attack. So you're looking for these two. Can we give check and attack? I don't see one. Check is here, but we don't get the rook. We get the pawn instead. So no way of getting the rook. So is there a way that we can get the bishop, where we can give check and attack the bishop without, forgetting that we might get taken? So maybe attack the bishop from an angle that the bishop won't be able to counter us back. Neither will the bishop be able to block. So this bishop is cooked and the king is being cooked. So the king has to move. Wherever the king moves, you take the bishop. This is the type of thinking that we should be definitely doing. So when the knight comes out, try to save it. The pawn takes. No, you don't take pieces when you can. You just attack them again. I don't know why you guys are doing this. Okay? So you just want to lose your knight. We don't want to take the knight. We want to put the bishop somewhere that attacks absolutely nothing. And then we take a rook. Fine. And then we push a pawn. So slowly, white is running out of pieces. Black has got a humongous lead. The motto should be the same. It should be to trade. You could, in this position, trade the queen for the rook, queen for the bishop. You could trade the rook for the pawn. And you'd then have a knight and 3 pawns and 3 pawns. You're winning. So trade. I'm not suggesting you do trade the queen for anything, but this is the motto. And so when we see rook g6, trying to win another pawn, and then we go for more pawns and pawns and pawns and pawns. Oh, no, we took a bishop with check. Finally, we're getting somewhere. Okay. So, after winning the bishop and giving check, Black has clearly got a massive advantage. It's actually checkmated just a couple of moves because the king, once again, has got not a lot of spaces to go. It's just got to start marching this way, and then you can do some type of ladder mate until you get this king trapped in the corner. Let's see how it progresses. Okay? Next move here is definitely queen c4. I mean, queen c4 or even queen e6, queen c5. Queen c5 is actually a very interesting move. This is the kind of move I need you guys to start thinking. Because what is this move doing? It's making room to trap or capture white's king. Not try to catch it, to capture it. So you don't have to give check. This is the first principle I want you to adopt. When you capture the king, don't just give check. Trap and capture, not catch. So with a move like Queen c4, although it's probably even better according to the engine, I want you guys to think more along the lines of capturing. Okay, you see, because with Queen c4, your rook is hanging, and I've got a feeling that black is not going to protect their rook. How did I know? Does white capture the rook? Well done. I mean, there's not many other moves. You see, it's not got much left to do. They probably found it just because there's nothing left. They only had this option or that option, or push a pawn. I mean, at the same time, you could take a pawn and get a queen. I don't even know if they remembered about their pawns. Okay, now we get a check. And here, I would say not to move the queen or the knight. Instead, take this pawn and go get another queen. It's hard for stalemate because white has still got 2 pawns. This is the thinking process. You need more firepower, you need more support. You need to capture the king, and you're not going to be able to do that with just 1 piece. It's going to be very hard to do it with 2. Especially with one of them being a knight. If it was a rook or another queen, they will support each other a lot easier. But with a knight, it's very hard to support the queen. This knight would have to be like here. Whereas the queen can support the knight, but then it limits itself from being able to attack. For example, the queen would love to go here and give a check, but then it loses protection of the knight. So I would actually recommend for beginner players in this position, once you've got the king somewhat trapped in the middle of the board, then leave it there. I mean, it can try and escape, but it can't go here because of this knight, of this pawn. So that's a covered square. So the king's really only got 2 spaces. I mean, it could sneak out through the back, of course, and run into the corner, which is why going to get a queen would be great, because this queen is going to stop this king coming any higher. So, moving the knight into a position where it can be taken and not being taken gave me a headache. I'm like, what am I seeing? Where's the thought process? You just put it straight back. Okay, we're going around in circles. Now we go over there. And then we go take a pawn. And then they remembered they can go get a queen. Black retreated. And went and won a pawn. Okay. Black said, you're not going to do no counterplay. White said, let me try one more time. Black said, I'm not going to take you with a pawn. I'm going to take you with my queen. It's more fancy. King said, go on then. Black said, not yet. King said, you're not taking it. Black said, yes, I am. King said, I'm going to get a queen before you. Black said, no, you're not. That's actually a very good move. That's a check. Oops. That's a check and an attack. Does white see this? They get close. King moves out of the way. King forgot about the pawn. And the pawn fell. Okay. From here, it's checkmate in just a couple of moves. You just need to know how to use the queen to cut off this king. So it doesn't have the roam, the free roam of the whole board. Okay? So maybe a bit of a fiddly chess, a check move, a checkmate here, but definitely use the rule of a knight's leap away. Start with a move like king g7. And then when the king comes down, then you go king here. And this is going to lead to, you could just do king-queen mate. That's how it works. King here, it's white to play. So if it's in this position, maybe here, stopping the king coming any lower. Then the king has just one move. See? Just that one spot stops the king having all of this free roam of the board. We're just going to come here, force the king up, and then you want to go somewhere like here. King has got 3 spaces, and all of those spaces are on the edge of the board. If the king goes here, pause the video, see what the right move would be. So many of you would just give check, and then the king goes here, and then you give check, and then the king goes here, and then you give check, and then you get stalemate. So the idea is to capture the king. What we saw in this game was another check, followed by a check. And we're here again. Are they going to move the queen and forget to protect the knight? No, they just protect the knight and forgot to attack the king. Okay, king's running all over the board. Not even a check. When you've got the king by itself, always keep up the checks. If you stop a check, you could lose on stalemate. So either make sure you can leave the king with enough moves left, or just always give checks. Okay, so this knight is now safe. It's being protected by the king. What you want to do now is think, where can this king go, and make that space smaller and smaller. not keep giving check. There we go, we lose the knight. Okay, now we're down to king, queen, mate. This game could have been finished 20 moves ago, but we're on move 56, and we go checking. This is called trying to catch the king. You don't catch kings, you capture them. Look. Okay, we have the king where we want them, in the corner. Here we go. The problem with this move is that the king has got no more spaces. So if we just do something like king, it's a stalemate. If we go here, it's a stalemate. Even if we go here, it's a stalemate. If you go here, you give the king that space. So this is the part of the game where you need to stop and think. Not just move. Think. In fact, this is not a bad move at all because you're giving the king some spaces to move. But what you don't want to do is go up and let the king come back out again. So from this position, the best move, according to the engine, is actually to keep the queen on this file. So the king does not come away from this back rank. You want to keep the king in a small area and capture it, like trying to capture a mouse in your house. You don't let it roam around the whole house. You corner it, capture it, hopefully safely, and then get it out of your house. And let it get back to its own habitat. Hopefully. But you do not want to give the king the freedom. It's like this queen ran away. Look how far things have progressed over the last 3 or 4 moves when we had the king right where we wanted it. This is mate in 3. Mate in 3. Mate in 3. Mate in 3. Another mate in 2. Mate in 2. Come on, this is checkmate in 2. You put the queen here. That's it. Where's the king going to go? The king can either go here or here. It's not coming outside. If the king goes here, we come here, it's cooked. It cannot go here, it has to go back up, and there's checkmate. If the king goes the other way, even worse, you pull the king over. You're using the power of 2 pieces. You're using this piece as like a shield. You're not trying to catch the king, you're trying to capture it. But instead of any of those 2 moves, what we saw was the king leave the rank, get attacked. Once again, this is not the right move. This would have been a better move. This shows the thinking processes. I'm not going to catch you. Instead, I'm going to capture you. I'm going to force you to have to go back. And then I'm going to squeeze you. And then I'm going to bring the king. And then I'm going to checkmate you. Instead, we saw another 10 moves. This was so painful to watch. Where's the principles of capturing the king? Here it is again. King trapped. It's mate in 2. All you got to do is something like this. Checkmate in 1. The king cannot go here. Look, no spaces. Just 1. And when the king goes there, it's checkmate. Instead, we saw king come back out and run back up. And black is trying so hard. We're now on move 90. When checkmate was available after move 20. We're on move 90. And we see another 10. Oh, so close. So close. Mate in 2. Can you see checkmate? In 2 moves. Pause the video. Take your time. It's white to play. Okay? Mate in 2. Okay, so this one's a bit tricky because the king has got 2 possible moves. Here or back. Okay? It can't go here right now. And it doesn't want to go back. Because if it goes back, then you give checkmate. So what you need to do is play a waiting move. We know the king has got no moves. So as long as we don't move, then it's going to have to go back. How do we not move? You play a move that does nothing. You see? Any of these moves does nothing. It just waits. We're not going to open the door for the king to come out. We're going to say you're staying trapped. We're just going to wait with a move like Queen E1. You're still cooked. You have to go back. And when the king goes back, then you come up and give, oops, you don't do that. That would be a finger slip. You come up and give checkmate. Okay, and talking about finger slips, I always recommend to click the space, not to drag, to avoid those kind of mishappens. And I think there's one of those in one of the following games. So anyway, king goes to the side. What's the move here? You want to, again, remember, you never want to let this king out again. And you want to send it back here. So maybe a move like this, saying you're not coming out. Go back. So it goes back. Okay, and this is mate in 1. When the king goes back, checkmate. Can you see it? Pause the video. So if you found it, you should have found 2 possible checkmates. Anywhere where the king has got no moves. How do we close all of the last moves? King's got options here, here, and here. How does the white queen take all of those squares out? Okay, so the first one is king f8. Stops all the back. Yeah? Okay, checkmate. The other one is queen d7. Even better. It's the king-queen mate with a kiss. They call it the kiss because the queen is right next to the king. So this would be checkmate from a distance. King's got no moves. That's the black king stopping the white king coming forward. And the white queen, sorry, the black queen takes out the remaining spaces. Or the kiss. However, what we saw was another 10 moves. And I sat and watched this painfully thinking, what are you doing? Where's the thinking process? And these were games like one after the other. Oh, it was so painful. Just dancing. It got to the point where the engine said, guys, go home. Too much. It's just too much repetition. This game is not going to end. So let's move on to the following game. So in this game, we see another 800 rated player versus the 700. Once again, we have fairly decent opens. We have a central pawn. We have the outside pawn. Normally this is a fianchetto position, so the black pawn on g7 only goes up by 1 space. But this one decides to go marching up by 2, which could easily just be taken with another pawn push here, open up the bishop to take it back. But that may be too advanced. Oh. Maybe I spoke too soon. I think I did. Okay, so now black should just take the pawn, attack the knight. Very good. White forgets to move the knight and loses the knight. If it was just this type of playing, I wouldn't have made this video. This is just standard blunders. People just didn't pay attention. But what I am really annoyed about is thought processes that began and then just fizzled out. Just disappeared. Okay, so here comes another pawn push. Pawn takes. Pawn push. Pawn takes. Rook takes. Otherwise known as checkmate. There's no way of blocking. There's nowhere to run. There's no one to capture. This is very close to what they call false mate. But no, the thought process wasn't there. Okay, maybe a bit too hard to spot. Fine. But then why are we pushing everything on this side? Not much development on the other side. Okay? Pawn push. Now we have another sneaky attack. Again, these attacks are dangerous because there's no pieces left to block, meaning white has to run because, of course, there's no capture. Okay, does black see it? I didn't think so. Okay, okay. We get the queens facing off again. We also should mention that this is a hanging piece which comes with check. I should also mention this is a hanging piece which comes with check. So we've got two hanging check pieces. We've got a queen stare down. Both would be fairly okay because it stops the other player from castling, although I don't think anyone plans to castle right now. With all of this action going on, what does black play? c6. Attacking the knight. I'll give them some credit. So the knight moves. So what do? We attack it again. Because the aim of the game is to attack knights. No, the aim of the game is to capture the king. So here comes a sneaky knight push thinking, I'm going to take your queen. But I think white forgot that black is also playing. And black can develop a knight and take a knight, or just double their pawns and take a knight. Never mind. We still have to take the pawn with check, or take the rook with check, and we have the queen stare down. Some intense action on the board. Something's going to happen. What do we get? e6. What is this pawn thinking? That I'm going to go forward and take the king? No, you don't take kings. You capture them. And this pawn is not going to capture that king, not with all of this firepower sitting there looking at you. Okay? So knight says, I'm going to get in the way. You're not getting close to my king. And so now white is forced to find another move. And I think that's the only reason why they didn't play pawn to e7. I think now they realise their pawn can't go anywhere. They look back at the starting rank and said, what else have I got? Oh, I can take the rook with check. Like 400 years later. And this is deadly because queen here is checkmate. Queen here, well, not quite checkmate because there's 3 defenders, but the king's running out of spaces. In fact, some might think already this is checkmate. But if you stop, you realise there is a block. So white takes the knight, of course, with another check. But now the king has a space. And so, what is the follow-up move? Try to pause the video and see if you can see what should happen next. Bear in mind, this pawn is hanging. The king has got no spaces. It's got maybe this one. There is a checkmate in 3. And it would start by bringing more pieces into the game. First one will be bishop g5. King has got no spaces, remember? It can't land on itself. So it has to go here. And when the king goes here, bishop f4 gives the check. The king, okay, let's see. It cannot go there because of the bishop, or here, or there because of the pawn. And so it's got 2 spaces, here and here. Coming down is definitely not going to end well. And going up doesn't end well. In fact, both end up in check. Mate. If it came down, it won't be able to go there or there. Which means rook d1 blocks off the last 2. And if it goes up, then it will be queen f7. Both are checkmate in 1. Instead, from this position, we saw queen slide to the right. I am not sure why. You lost control of the pawn, and now you've got like a check here or here. Both of those allow the king to slide back. And then gain some type of control, potentially. But instead, bishop attacks to queen, once again forgetting that it doesn't have any friends to defend it and can just be taken. The pawn goes. We get a second piece. One of the best moves of the game, simply because white remembered there's more than one piece required to check the king. Checkmate the king. Okay, king slides out of the way. This bishop is now hanging. So white needs to be careful. Either move the bishop or keep up the attack. No comment. Okay. Black has lost almost all their pieces. They've got 3 pawns and a knight, 3 pawns and a rook. White has lost almost all their pieces, but they've got 4 pawns, 2 rooks and a bishop. So white is definitely winning. The idea here is to trade your pieces. If we can trade our 2 rooks and trade our 3 pawns, we'll be left with a bigger advantage. That white has got a pawn, a bishop and a rook, and black has got nothing. White should therefore be able to use that pawn and get a queen, or the king and rook to get king-rook mate, or use the bishop and help capture the king. So off the pawn goes. King says, I'm going to stop you. A good move here would be to maybe develop a bishop into the game. Or use the king, an active king towards the end game is great, to therefore get the other rook out. Not yet, maybe? Okay, pawn march. This is a good play from black, to say you're not coming up here. The moment this happened, the idea would be to attack on the other side, because this rook can't defend on both fronts. So maybe push both the pawns, throw all the pawns at them, and then take over whatever's left. Nonetheless, rook comes up, king comes over. I'm expecting king to come here, rook to take, and force a trade. That would be a bad trade for black. You shouldn't trade when you're losing. But this looks like what they were thinking. And then white forgot to protect the pawn so we can get the pieces to capture the king. And white thought, let me catch the king. And now the king is threatening both. Okay? White can actually do a very good move. Pause the video if you can see a way to win the rook. Okay? When you go rook f8, this is discovery check. Whilst black wants to take the free rook, it cannot. It has to deal with the check. So it has to settle with the pawn and then walk into a check attack. And now we've got 2 rooks, 3 pawns against just 3 pawns. Oh, and an extra bishop. Nonetheless, white pushed the pawn. And blacks wanted to take the rook, probably attempted to, but the bishop's in the way. So they take the pawn instead. You could try that move now, though it's not as effective, because if you try to do discovery check, black can actually defend the rook. So if you do take the rook, you don't win a rook, you just traded a rook, which is still a great move, because then you just develop the bishop, push the pawns, march your king into the center of the board, bring out the rook, cut off the king, and then gobble up all the pieces and get yourself a queen. This is the idea. Instead, we saw check and forgot. How do you forget? This is what I mean. You had an idea and then you just forgot about it. Okay, so now we're getting close to being even again, because now black has a rook, white has a rook, both plays of 3 pawns, but white has the extra bishop. Bishops can be hard to navigate in this position, but there is a killer blow. If you can see it, I would say pause the video, but you should have seen it by now, is bishop b2. Unleashing a check, and no way for black's king to defend the rook. Even if it could, it would be a good exchange. But instead, white takes the pawn, no surprise. But that pawn is now stuck. It may have been better sometimes, not in this case actually, but sometimes it's better to push past them. Because the idea is to get queens, not walk into dead ends. But this is okay. There's no better way, and it stops the black pawn advancing any further. Now, somehow white can maybe get involved, get behind, and take the pawn. This is the mindset that you should be thinking. Okay, we get a check, and there's some firepower behind. When you check a king, and the king moves, look at what you can get behind sometimes. Okay? The bishop is protected by the rook, so no sense taking the bishop now. I think the next best move here would probably be to keep up the pressure, attack, and hopefully the king goes back and win a pawn and win a pawn. Okay, we went for the pawn. There was no real way of stopping that pawn from hanging. Oh well, you could have developed the bishop in front of the king, but then it could have been pinned, and then it would have been awful either way. So pawn push, I guess, is okay. Rook defends this pawn, actually a good spot, because this was coming down next. Now we've got a rook attacking a pawn and a rook defending a pawn. This is where the kings become more valuable. If white's king was here, that would be great. And if black's king was here, that'd be fantastic. But they're not. So they should try get there. Okay, once again, the rook forgets to defend the pawn. And this time, black doesn't want to take the pawn. Instead, he wants to push a pawn. It's better to keep your pawn on the other colors of the other person's bishop. So if they've got a dark squared bishop, keep your pawns on light squares. If they've got a light squared bishop, keep your pawns on dark squares. With black's bishop on a dark square, already this becomes a great move. So maybe better to keep the pawn where it was and activate the king. Okay, rook slides up here. I'm not sure what they're thinking. Maybe to slide over and try to catch the king. Yeah, I thought so. Okay, and then check to catch the king. You see, this is not the right move. The right move here is not to try and give another check. It's actually to put the rook back, save that pawn, stop the king coming any further, and then get your pawns and bishops out into the game. Okay, give it a check, and now you're letting the king get closer and closer up to the back to try and catch from behind. Black has completely forgotten about their plan. And this pawn has just walked into another dead end. Okay, the rook, the bishop comes into the game, attacking absolutely nothing and walking into a complete trap. If black takes that bishop, we are even. We've gone from a massive advantage to even. If they take the bishop, are they going to take the bishop? Of course not. This video wouldn't be here if they did. This is a blunderville. Okay. Bishop is just running around saying, hey, look at me, I can move. Great. King says, I'm just going to slide to the back, to the left, to the right. I'm going to do the cha-cha. Bishop goes up to attack the rook. Maybe that was a finger slip. Maybe they tried to drag it all the way and they dropped it too early. Okay? So then they finish their plan to attack the rook. Rook can now just take the pawn. Of course it does. Okay? Bishop was like, oh no, all of that traveling for nothing. So the rook says, I'm going to come over and I'm going to give check. Yes, I gave you check. And I'm going to give you another one. And I'm going to give you... No, maybe not another one. I was waiting for another one right here. Okay? This is now very dangerous because this is the kind of space you want to start asking, where can the king go? When you see all of these pieces next to it, that's immediately 3 places it cannot go. Then we've got a rook. Boom, boom. And a pawn. Look at that. The king's only got 2 spaces. Is there a way we can put some pressure on that king? Yes, we've got a move like bishop. Taking out this square, forcing the king up. Or we've got rook. These are the kind of moves. In fact, even rook b7 is not great. It's okay. Rook c4 is better. Because now you're still stopping all of this. Obviously, it can't land on its own pieces. And you're forcing the king here. And then you can play. Okay? And then you can take the pawn. And then keep this king trapped in the corner. Not running around the board having fun. Okay? So king coming up. Doesn't really help massively. King runs down. Now we've got an easy check. Take the pawn for check. Okay. Okay. King is running out of moves. It can't go here. It can't go here. It's only got 2 legal spaces left. The idea now for white is you're going to struggle to give check with a king and a bishop. What you need to do is take the pawn, move out of the way, and go get a queen. All the way to the top, of course. So, it begins. The best part I saw... Oh! Now we have a problem. If white goes up, black gets there first and actually takes the lead. It'll be a big problem. They get the queen, you try and go, and you're going to get... If they know how to play well, they could actually just come back up and stop that from happening. And then slowly get the king into the game. Or they can just give lots of checks and then hopefully stop that from happening. But the pawn and the bishop create a nice combination. You notice how they defend each other? So anyway, that's not what happened. What white done, I think they got a little bit of insight, was to see this killer move, stopping the development of that pawn. and ready to sacrifice the bishop for that promoted pawn because they know there's no way black can stop that from happening. Then you got the standard king-queen mate. So the king slides over. I'm not quite sure what they were trying to do. Then they go pushing, king slides back. And then they say, okay, let's give this a go. They get the queen, they lose the queen, they take the bishop. And now we have the option to do king-queen mate. It's actually mate in 3. The first move would be a move like queen here, immediately stopping the king coming back outside. You do not want this king back into the game. Or king here, or here. Both of those are creating this shield, keeping this naughty king in the corner. But the king came out. Okay, this is okay. I think a better move would actually be, in fact, this is a great move. I can't really say much about this move because the king can go here. Let's play this out. So if the king goes here, yeah, there is a checkmate. Where is it? Can you see the checkmate? Because it's easy to do stalemate as well with a move like this. You see? There's the king go. You don't want to do this. You want to do something like this. Giving the king another space. And then you give checkmate. Or you want to do something like this. Always try and get this 7th rank and keep the king at the back. So wherever you see the king at the back, you want to put this queen anywhere along this line. Just not directly in front to get taken, at a distance. Here, 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 or here. Any of these spaces would have been great. I'll highlight the spaces again. So there, here, here, or here. Any of these spaces give the king enough space to move, and then you just need to get the other king in front of it, and then you slide the queen over for checkmate. Something like this. Queen here, king goes there, queen here, checkmate. Or king goes the other way, and then you slide over. And then king goes the other way, and then you get checkmate. Or if the king decides to come back, then you get checkmate. But it all stems from trapping and capturing the king, not trying to catch. See the problem with this move? We had mate in 2. We now have mate in 6. And now the king's run out. It's now becoming mate in 7. By king, the king's gone. It's mate in 12. You've gone back into the game. Look at the king running all over the board. Now white frantically tries to catch. Check, check. Moving up. Check, check. Moving up. Another check. Another check. Another check. Moving up. Another check. Another check. Another check. That's like 10 extra checks. We had mate in 3. We're not trying to catch the king. We're trying to capture it. I don't know what to say anymore. This is 92 moves. And the principle is the same from here. Your knights leap away, move the king, force the king, trap the king. Oop, not there. You want to trap the king, bring your king, slide back in and give mate. Okay? Oh. This is the principle. Careful now. Okay, now we have to be very careful. Because where can the king go? Only here. And we don't want it to go there. We want it to stay at the back. So how do we stop it from going anywhere out but without doing stalemate? I told you, whenever the king's on the side, you want to find one of these spaces. Not the 3 in front of the king, because if you go here, you lose the queen, it's a draw. If you go here, you lose the queen, it's a draw. And you can't go there even if you tried, you're not a knight, you're a queen. So the right move is queen d2. Queen d2. Just do queen d2. That's it. The king's got no moves. Just one, obviously. You must leave one. So when the king slides here, you can even tease the king. Keep going. Like, there's nothing the king can do. The king's just going to stay there until you slide here and come back for checkmate. But to just play, I'm going to get you, this is what happens. So, you've seen 3 stalemates in a row. Thank you for your patience. You're now about to see one of the greatest stalemates of all time. This one gave me a headache for about 2 hours. Once again, we have good openings. We've got good mindsets. These players know how to play chess. This is rated. This is a game between a player rated 724 and a player rated 842. But when I done the review at the end of the game and I looked at the rating, the engine said they should be rated 100. Both of them. 100. This is why I say I think someone who doesn't even know how to play chess would have won one of these games. Because sometimes the process or philosophy can work against you. You've got to think and follow your thought process through. Okay, knights, bishop attacks knights, attack the bishop, run home, keep pushing the pawn, develop, control the center. I've never seen that move, but okay, we'll go with it. Take that, not good, because the queen's going to take the knight. No, we don't take pieces, we attack them. Okay, so the knight goes over there, you can take it with the bishop with check. Yay! You could easily defend and control the center. Great. And you just forgot your piece was attacking the king and then got attacked and you just said, I'm going to castle. Okay, no problem. It's not the end of the world. Computer says black is winning by 1. Just 1. Remember, white lost the knight, black has now lost the bishop and a pawn. So it's about equal, give or take a piece. So pawn says I can see 2 people attacking one space. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to jump in that space. Take me! Okay, happy knight, happy pawn, sacrificed himself for the greater good. I don't know what the greater good was. Maybe the knight wants to come here and then double up on that pawn attack. Maybe the queen wants to sneak to the side and give check and then just get attacked and run away. I don't know what the thinking process was, but we're going to find out. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe the knight wants to take this pawn. I don't know. Wow. The rook says, hey, you took my knight. I'm going to cover the space they used to stand on. And think about them. What did you do that for? Was you gonna... I don't know. I don't think you know. Why? Okay. Terrible move. Like, that pawn is being defended by another pawn. If a pawn's being defended by a pawn, the only thing that should take that is a pawn. Instead, you took the pawn. You didn't lose the knight. I don't know. I don't know. I really just don't know. Okay. The Evo bar is jumping. White's winning. Black's winning. White's winning. Black's winning. This rook is doing that queen sidestep. Of all of these pieces, why did black choose to sidestep their rook? I don't know. I don't know. Okay. Rook slides over. It's now done 1, 2, 3 to get down. Are they going to take the bishop? Hopefully not. Okay. This is not the worst move. It's castled position and the rook is behind the pawn and it's indirectly staring at the king. I kind of like this rook e1 move. Pawn takes here. We don't even need to move our knight. We could just take it back with the rook and keep up the pressure on the king. This is a good move. Okay, so this rook is doing too much. Now the rook is defending a pawn. That was already defended by a queen. That's attacked by a pawn. Like, you're doing too much. You forgot the principles. Develop, not like that. Develop your knight. Here, let me spin it around. Develop your knight, push the pawn, develop the bishop, castle. Stick to the same principles. Instead, we move a rook 1, 2, 3, 4 times to defend a pawn. That could have been done with one move. One move. It's already been defended. Rooks are having sidestep movements. Sidestep movements. Okay, so we finally have some pawn trades in the middle. Now, look at the position. We have knight takes pawn, attacks rook, which unleashes queen, can take queen, which is pretty dangerous because if knight takes pawn, then queen can come down for a skewer. Although this bishop is being protected, and white can actually block with the knight, and it then has a getaway square. So a very complex position, a lot of calculations. Probably best to take with the rook, or I think the best move here is to move the queen here, give a check, And then you can always slide over and take the pawn with the queen. And keep these two doubled up, maybe for some type of battery later on. But to see all of that, after these calculations, on move 15, and white just plays king f1. I have to ask why. And I'm trying so hard to think, what was the logic? The only one that I'm coming up with is like when the rook slid over, is to stand on the space the other piece was and say, I'm going to stand here and think about my friend. Maybe it was reflective. I'm just going to think about the rook that used to be here. Hope you're doing well. Why? Okay, here comes the pawn push with no defense. This pawn is the bravest pawn I've ever seen. It says, I'm going to win the game by myself. You could have taken me here, but no, you're going to take me here. Okay. Pawn's gone. No memorial. We move on. A lot of strategy still in place. There's still a check here, followed up with a free pawn. We should still be developing and attacking. Get our other pieces into game. Get this bishop, get this rook. Rook to the middle, bishop out. Black just doesn't want to play chess. Okay, we get a rook stare down. Interesting. Should we trade rooks? Well, for white, of course, you can take my rook, I'll take you back. For black, once again, they forget, when you attack a piece, you must remember that you can be countered. So here, it's quite simple, really. Take a free rook. Control everything. Rook takes rook. Almost every piece is defended, except for this weird pawn push over here. That happened many moves ago, and we still don't know why. It's a free rook, center of the board. You're winning. You're up by 4 points at this stage. Easy win. Or we just go chasing the rook with our king. Why? Where's your king going? You created a castle position and then marched your king back into the game. I don't get it. Why? The king takes of all the pieces you've now got. Look at your structure. The piece, the most furthest advanced in the whole game is a pawn. Okay. And the second most advanced piece is your king. This is not chess. The king should be at the back, safe and secure. The pawn should be at the front with some minor pieces in and amongst them, fighting for the center or for the flanks, trying to capture the other person's king. What I'm seeing are kings marching out to the front with no support, no direction, just saying, I'm going to go and get you. Why? Let the knight and the bishops do that. Let the rooks do that. Let the queen do it, not the king. Okay? So here we get again. Bishop attacking the queen with no support, thinking, I'm going to get you, forgetting that they can be got first. So if white saw that, why? I don't know. I don't get it. Okay. This is a very good move. It's opening the bishop. It's opened the queen. It's allowing space to castle, finally. Are we going to follow through on this train of thought? Queen runs away. Said, I took your bishop. I'm going back home. I don't want to be outside. I want my king to go and do it all. Do we get the bishop come out with check? No. No. So why? You just pushed a pawn into a space that can be taken. We saw this in the last game where queen can slip behind. Can you guys please stop pushing these pawns? Definitely not push them twice. Leave the pawn where it is. Stick to the middle. Okay? Why? Where is this queen going? Where are you going, bro? Where are you going? You just took your queen out. You put the queen back. And then you castled your queen? Oh my gosh. You castled your queen. Oh, and then the king comes back. Look at this. Oh my gosh. I don't think I've ever seen this position. What's the queen doing in there? What's the queen doing in there? Maybe that was the plan. I'm going to sneak into my own castle, stay at the back, so if someone sneaks in the back door, I can catch them. You let the guards do that, queen. Okay, finally. See? The thought process was there, but it just didn't connect. Instead of developing the bishop, you marched the pawn and lost the pawn. So now even when you castle, you've got no front door. Oh, they're going to castle, aren't they? After losing the bishop, we get the queen. This queen is too much. Please go. Bye, queen. That queen does not deserve to be in this game of chess. Get off the board. What are you doing? You castled your own queen and then chucked it in the corner to do what? You thought, I'm going to attack their queen. And then just lose it. And you just lost it without even taking this. Okay. So this knight that was uncomfortably sitting on the edge of the board has a chance to win a pawn. It wins the pawn. The thought processes are connected. It gets attacked. It better run away. Oh, it attacks a queen. Even better. It gets attacked. It better run away. It gets a pawn and attacks the queen and gets attacked. So it better run away. And it gets... Okay. Queens just like chucking themselves in corner. There must be something about this corner. What is it? The G1 and the H1 squares. Okay. King moves. We had this before. Queen can't take bishop. Bishop's protected by rook. So what you do here is develop, get your other pieces into the game, capture each other's kings. What do we see? Check. Trying to catch the king, right? Check. Trying to catch the king again, right? Check. What a great block. One of the greatest protects I've seen in a long time. I've got a feeling like it was found by accident though. Because right here, look at the king's spaces. Always count. The king's spaces. Can't go there because of the queen. Can't land on its own space. That pawn is doing such a great job. So it's only got 3 spaces. I just have a feeling that white was sitting there going, beep, 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 beep. And I was like, you know what, let me just move something else. That's my feeling. We will never know. But then after this, you know, it's interesting. Black is massively ahead. Massively. They have a queen, of course. Okay? So, what should they be thinking? Get their pieces into the game and capture the king. Do not take the bishop, do not take the pawn. They're protecting each other. Look out for this rook about to come into the game and get yours into the game first, or just go march up and get yourself a second queen. Anything along those lines is great. Or another idea is get your king active. Active kings are good in the end game. Let's see what happens. I don't know. I don't know. What? Why? Okay, at least you're trying to maybe... Can we stop putting knights on the rim? Knights in the rim are grim. Okay, finally took a pawn. Where's this going? Black is still in the lead massively. Do not take this pawn, it's being protected. You don't need to give check, you're not going to get checkmate. What you need to do is get your rook into the game. Okay. It's not the worst move. Knight can take the pawn, bishop takes, queen takes. Okay, maybe white's thinking, I'm going to go sneak up 1, 2, 3, 4 moves and get a queen before black sees me. Takes the pawn. 3 moves for a queen. Attacks the bishop. 2 moves for a queen. Takes the bishop. 1 move for a queen. No, you don't. So what do we do now? There is a killer blow. White can win the game. 1 move. Pause the video. You should have found knight d6. A fork. They found it. They took the queen. They got a queen. They took the rook. They're doing good. Take the pawn. This is it. They switched on. They woke up. We're getting thinkers. Yes. Yes. Okay. No. You get the rook up. You give check. The king moves. You take the pawn. Ladder mate. Anyway, it's okay. It's okay. Stay excited. Great. Rook out. Bang. Check. Why? Why? Okay. Get the rook out. Check. Oh. You have a rook and a queen, but you want another queen. Okay. Yes! 2 queens and a rook. Black is cooked. Black is so cooked. So, next move here. What does black do? Easy peasy. You do not have to go here. I would not do that. That is not capturing the king. The right move here is actually something like here. just getting out of the way and forcing black to the edge. Or actually here, keeping black in this middle line, saying you're not going to go anywhere, and then I'm going to catch you in the middle. Left, right, bang in the middle, bullseye. Okay, very good. Mate in 2. 2 moves to checkmate. Okay, here we go. 1. King can go anywhere it likes. Any one of those spaces, and it's checkmate. 2 moves. White's won the game. Bang. Oh, okay. Not with the rook, with the queen. Still 2 moves to checkmate. Just got to wait for this. Now you see we've got a back door. So the best move here is actually to stop this back door. You do not want to go up here, because then the black king can just slide behind their pawn. Because the white queen is no longer creating a fence. So we need to block that back door. Either queen g3, or, I mean, you can even just carry on with king a7. It's not going to be terrible, but it's just going to lead to more moves. Okay, so here we go. Queen a7. It's still mate in 2. King g6. There we go. Now, how do we stop this king coming down? We know what the king wants to do. He wants to run down here and try and hide in the corner. All of our firepower on the other side. So you can do queen. You can do queen. You can do rook. Anything like this to stop the advancement. I mean, even rook g1. It's not the greatest move, but it does do something. What is that doing? What are you doing? There goes the king. Oh, no, it goes back. Okay, so now what can we do? We need to stop. We've already stopped that one. We need to stop these 2. So don't do this, but maybe something like this. See, this is the thought process that we're trying to stop and capture the king. That's great. That's not great. But you didn't. You had it. Why did you run away? Okay. It's still mate in 2. It's been mate in 2 for the last 5 moves. We got the king where we want it. Keep the king there. Lock the door. Boom. You're not coming out ever again. That's it. Boom. You are never coming back into this game. You are staying on the edge. You naughty boy. What's that? What are you doing? What? Where are you going? Why is the king running away? It's not under attack. CPR is not needed here. You don't need to run. Trap the king. Even the king knows, it's like, I'm just going to stay on the edge. It's been mate in 2 for 15 moves. Queen g6. Queen g7. Queen g1. Rook g1. Any one of those moves leads to mate in 1. Queen g7. Where's the king going to go? There or there? Wherever it goes, it's mate in 1. Checkmate! You even got a mate in 2 here. Checkmate! But instead we get close. Close. But you see what happens when you're not keeping this locked door locked? You let the king out. So now we just say no more. Or we already covered this rank. We don't need to say that. We just say, hey, go back in the corner, you naughty boy. Okay, we're just piling up the pressure. Okay, it's mate in 2. We got check and mate. We've got check and mate. In fact, that's not check and mate. We've got a move and then mate. We've got, there's like so many. There's so many. I mean, just give check. And then just do something and just close the game off. Lock off the lanes. Ladder mate. Some kung fu chops. I don't know. Your ladder mate and the king. Okay. It's mate in 1. Checkmate. Where's checkmate? Pause the video. You don't even need to pause the video. Checkmate is there on F6. F7. Mate. No, that's not. Yeah, that is mate because the queen skewers across. The queen. Oh, that's such a nice mate. Boom. Checkmate. Game over. GG. We got check and mate. But we don't even need to do check and mate. We have checkmate right here. Kiss. Good night. Good night.